We are taught that Yom Kippur isn't split into evening and morning, but rather is one long day. For those who will be wearing a talit, this is the only day in which we traditionally wear a talit from the beginning in the evening throughout the entire holiday, through the next day. My soul, bless Adonai. Adonai, my God, you are very great. You are clothed in beauty and splendor, wrapped in a robe of light. You unfurl the heavens like the curtains of a tent. For those who will be wearing talit, I invite you to put your talitot on and say the blessing that can be found on page 2 of your machzor. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef b'tzitzit. Source of blessings, eternal our God, majestic in power, your mitzvot are paths of holiness. You give us the mitzvah of wrapping ourselves in the fringed talit.
Baruch atah Adonai, notea b'tuchenu chayei olam. You are blessed, eternal one, who places within us life everlasting. The human spirit is the lamp of God, searching out what lies within us. Guided by the flame of conscience, on this sacred night we search for truth. Shine your light upon us as we strive to serve you. May we find safety in your faithful love. We light the flame of healing and forgiveness. On this atonement night, we give thanks for love. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim. Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, teaching us holiness through sacred obligations, giving us the mitzvah of bringing light on Yom Kippur. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechachiyanu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, giving us life, upholding the life within us, and bringing us to this time.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'eheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
In its emphasis on humility, Kol Nidre provides a corrective to the toxic certainties of polarized discourse. What if we approached each other with the humility to recognize that our most confident convictions will always be qualified by the limits of our own knowledge and understanding? In its haunting melody and strangely legalistic language, we begin to sense the twilight truth. Our high horses too often stumble, and our soapboxes stand on shaky ground. Kol Nidre grants us the gift of sacred uncertainty, the chance to begin this year with a sense of what we do not know, rather than a narrow certainty about what we do know. What if every time I were ready to proclaim some self-evident truth, I allowed Kol Nidre to whisper in my ear, "Says who?" Traditionally, we hear Kol Nidre 3 times on this evening. This evening you will hear it both sung and played and spoken. Kol Nidre, the Esarei, the Charamei, the Konamei, the Chinuyei, the Kinusei Ushvuot. Dimdarna udishtabana udaharimna v'darsana al nafshatana. Yom Kippurim zeh ad Yom Kippurim haba. Aleinu l'tova. Kulchon yichartna v'hon. Kulchon yahon sharan. Shvikin, shvitin, v'telin, mivutulin. La shuririn, la kayamin, nidrana la nidre, esarana la esare, ushvuotana la shvuot. I invite you to rise as we turn to page 22 for our call to worship, the Baruch.
Shema הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי ואת כל קדושים אלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Our song for redemption, Michamocha, can be found on page 40. Have mercy upon me, O God, as befits your faithfulness. In keeping with your abundant compassion, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly of my iniquity and purify me of my sin. For I recognize my transgressions and am ever conscious of my sin. We continue with the Amidah on pages 46 through 50. After we finish, I invite you to be seated when you finish your Amidah. And now I invite you to rise. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot, ומביאו לה לפני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממיט ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצורה לחיים ברחמים. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, המלך הקדוש. We continue on page 82 with the Vidui Zuta, the short confession. Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, tabo lefanecha tefilatenu, ve'al titalam mitchinatenu. Anachnu azei fanim hushei oref, lomar lefanecha. Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, tzadikim anachnu, ve'lo chatanu, aval anachnu chatanu. Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence. And when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong. Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi, Yalalai, 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 Evinu, Vehirshanu, Zadnu, Chamasnu, Tafalnu sheker, yalalai, 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 ya'atznu ra, hizavnu, lahatznu, marahadnu, niyahatznu, Sararnu, Avinu, Pashanu, Sararnu, Kishinu Oref, Ya-la-la-la-la, Ya-la-la-la-la-la, Ya-la-la-la-la-la, Rashanu, Shihanu, Tihavnu, Tainu, Titanu, Ya-la-la-la-la, Ya-la-la-la-la-la, Ya-la-la-la-la-la. Of these wrongs we are guilty. We betray, we steal, we scorn, we act perversely. We are cruel, we scheme, we are violent, we slander, we devise evil. We lie, we ridicule, we disobey, we abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit crimes. We are hostile, we are stubborn, we are immoral, we kill. We spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. Now we continue with the Vidui Rabbah, the long confession, on pages 86, 87, 88, and 90. For these sins, our God, we ask forgiveness. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha, b'zadon u'vishgaga, ve'al chet shachatanu lefanecha, b'dibur peh. The ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and the harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouths. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'imutz halev, ve'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'tifshut peh. The ways we have wronged you by hardening our hearts, and harm we have caused in your world through careless speech. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'chachash u'chazav, ve'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'irchilut. The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'filut, ve'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'zilzul horim u'morim. The ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'vidui peh, ve'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'hona'at re'ah. The ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'chozek yad, ve'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'masal u'matan. The ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. Ve'al kulam elo aslichot, slach lanu, v'chad lanu, kaper lanu. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha begalui u'sater, ve'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'frichat ol. The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by losing self-control. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'gilui arayot, ve'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'ma'achal u'mishteh. The ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality, and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'yetzer hara, ve'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'neshek u'marbit. The ways we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through greed and exploitation. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha belatzon, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'nitiyat garon. The ways we have wronged you through cynicism and scorn, and harm we have caused in your world through arrogant behavior. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'sinat chinam, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'tumat tzvatayim. The ways we have wronged you by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'lishon hara, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'tzarut ayin. The ways we have wronged you with a slanderous tongue, and harm we have caused in your world through a selfish or petty spirit. Ve'al kulam elo aslichot, slach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. At this time, we also remember that in the midst of a very difficult year, we have also been responsible for acts of healing and repair in the world. On page 93, God, our Creator and Guide, let us speak now of the healing acts by which we bring you into the world, the acts of repair that make you a living presence in our lives. Al hatikun shetikanu lefanecha. For the act of healing we have done openly or anonymously, and for the act of repair we have done without personal gain. Al hatikun shetikanu lefanecha. For the act of healing we have done by seeking forgiveness, and the act of repair we have done by forgiving others. Al hatikun shetikanu lefanecha. For the act of healing we have done through righteous giving, and for the act of repair we have done by opening our hearts. Al hatikun shetikanu lefanecha. For the act of healing we have done by comforting the mourner and visiting the sick, and for the act of repair we have done by pursuing justice and human rights, fairness and civility. Al hatikun shetikanu lefanecha. For the act of healing we have done by making peace between one person and another, and for the act of repair we have done by protecting nature and all its creatures. Al hatikun shetikanu lefanecha. For the act of healing we have done by teaching our children the ways of peace, and for the act of repair we have done by teaching our children the ways of Torah. Al hatikun shetikanu lefanecha. For the act of healing we have done by honoring elders and loving the stranger, and for the act of repair we have done in response to your commandment, choose life and blessing. Ve'al kulam. And all these bring nearer the day when you shall be one, and your name shall be one. Shema kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hus v'rachem aleinu. V'kabel b'rachamim uvratzon et tefilateinu. Hear our call, Adonai our God. Show us compassion. Accept our prayer with love and goodwill. Take us back, Adonai. Let us come back to you. Renew our days as in the past. Hear our words, Adonai. Understand our unspoken thoughts. May the speech of our mouth and our heart's quiet prayer be acceptable to you. Adonai, our rock and our redeemer. Do not cast us away from your presence or cut us off from your Holy Spirit. Do not cast us away when we are old, as our strength diminishes. Do not forsake us. Do not forsake us, Adonai. Be not far from us, our God. With hope, Adonai, we await you. Surely you, Adonai, our God, you will answer. On page 100, God of forgiveness, we come before you in need of compassion. At Sinai, you spoke words that guide our lives to this day, but our ancestors lost faith in you, lost hope in their Redeemer. With one voice they had promised, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do and obey. And yet stiff-necked, they broke their word, adoring an idol of gold. How wondrous your compassion in the face of their rebellion, your forgiveness in that moment of human weakness and doubt. We too have broken promises to you. We too worship the work of our own hands. We too make of gold a god. And we too forsake your word. At Sinai, you revealed 13 attributes of mercy. These aspects of your nature, your very essence, we now recall.
Adonai, Adonai, Elrohim B'Hanun, Erech HaPayim, B'Rach Hesed V'Emet, Noser Chesed La'alachim, Noser Kavon B'Fesha, B'Chata V'Na'akei. Adonai, Adonai, Elrohim B'Hanun, Erech HaPayim, B'Rach Hesed V'Emet, Noser Chesed La'alachim, Noser Kavon B'Fesha, B'Chata V'Na'akei.
Adonai, Adonai, God, compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving and true, showing mercy to the 1,000th generation, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, granting pardon. On page 106, our God and God of our ancestors, we are your people, and you are our God. We are your children, and you are our mother, our father. We are the people who serve you, and you call us to serve. We are your community, and you are our portion. We are your legacy, and you are our purpose. We are your flock, and you are our shepherd. We are your vineyard, and you watch over us. We are your work, and you are our maker. We are your beloved, and you are our lover. We are your treasure, and you are the one we cherish. We are your people, and you reign over us. We offer you our words, and you offer us yours. So forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
Ki anu ha'chal be'ata malkeinu, anu b'necha be'ata avinu, anu nachatecha be'ata goraleinu, anu sonecha be'ata roeinu, anu karmecha be'ata nodreinu, anu rayatecha be'ata dodeinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, ha'er lanu et derech hayenu. Avinu Malkeinu, illumine for us the path of our life. Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the strength to take the road less traveled by? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we come to know the purpose of our existence? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we learn not to live life in vain? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we get out of our indifference? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we distinguish between truth and falsehood? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the answers to our questions? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we gird ourselves with strength to seek answers? Avinu Malkeinu, honenu v'anenu, chazkenu v'amtzenu, kivacha v'imcha atshuvot. Avinu Malkeinu, be gracious to us, answer us, empower us and give us courage, for the answers are both in you and with you. I invite you to rise for Avinu Malkeinu on pages 114 and 115. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol aleinu, v'al aleinu v'tapienu. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and on our families. Avinu Malkeinu, kalei dever v'cherev v'ra'av me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger. Avinu Malkeinu, kalei kol tsar u'mastin me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror. Avinu Malkeinu, kodvenu b'sefer chayim tovim. Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived. Avinu Malkeinu, chadesh aleinu shana tova. Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, malei yadeinu b'birchotecha. Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings. Avinu Malkeinu, harein keren mishichecha. Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption. Avinu Malkeinu, na'al teshivenu rekam milfanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing. Avinu Malkeinu, kabel berachamim uvratzon et tefilatenu. Avinu Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh imanu l'ma'an shmecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh l'ma'ancha ilo l'ma'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake, if not for ours. Avinu Malkeinu, ein lanu melech ela ata. Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign. Avinu Malkeinu, pitach sha'arei shamayim litfilatenu. Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayer. Avinu Malkeinu, shema kolenu, hus v'rachem aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice, treat us with tender compassion. Avinu Malkeinu, honenu v'hanenu, ki ein banu ma'asim, aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Cholenu v'yanenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Cholenu v'yanenu, ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kol Nidre Elokeinu, Chanenu Yameinu, Ki Imanu Ma'asim.
What could a parent need help with? What could they fear? As a child, it is difficult enough to contemplate these questions, let alone what traumas and set-in ethical and ideological commitments could make it harder for a parent to understand a child. To a child, a parent may seem, though not godlike, much more in command of their life and knowledgeable about the world than it seems possible to a child. Tonight, as we begin our holiest holiday, I would like to shed some light on the holy parent-child relationship. We don't know much about Terach, Abraham's father, nor about Abraham's upbringing, his youth, how he met and married his wife Sarah, anything really. Midrashic tradition fills in the blanks for us. We've all heard that Terach was an idolater. Many of us know the Midrash from Bereshit Rabbah that some people think is actually in the Torah, though it isn't. It teaches us how a young Abraham rejected polytheistic idolatry in favor of one God, and features the destruction of many idols, ostensibly by a large idol, but in actuality by Abraham. Abraham rebels against his father, a man who sells idols, who props up the belief in idolatry. Abraham would go on to inspire a series of faith traditions that claim to be of his spiritual lineage, what we now call Abrahamic monotheism. Abraham may possibly be the most influential person who ever lived. Today, he is claimed as the spiritual ancestor of 2.4 billion Christians, 1.9 billion Muslims, and 15 million Jews. More than half the people alive today. And Terach was his father, the father of a great nation, the father of the person with the idea. Let's look at the two versions of the story of Terach and Abraham as presented in the end of Parashat Noach and the beginning of Lech Lecha. Chapter 12, verse 1, the beginning of Parashat Lech Lecha, is a great hero's call to faith and adventure. Lech Lecha, from your land, where you were raised, from your father's house, to the land that I will show you. There you go. There's our Abraham, the idol smasher, who rebelled against his father and left his father's house to become the great person of Judaism and human history our tradition understands him to be today. But wait. Why does Parashat Noach end by saying this? Terach took Avram, his son, Lot, his brother's Haran's son, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, and they set out from Ur-Kasdim to go to the land of Canaan. It sounds like Terach started the journey, that Terach took his family away from Ur-Kasdim on his own initiative. It is possible, as Rashi, Ibn Ezra, Radak, and Nachmanides all agree, that the call in the beginning of Lech Lecha came before Terach took his descendants out of Ur-Kasdim for Canaan. That requires us to disregard the chronology of the narrative. Maybe, in fact, Avram received his call from God only after Terach had initiated the transition of the family away from Ur, and more importantly, away from idolatry. Maybe Terach is a more complicated character than the one-dimensional, evil idolater that Midrash generally supposes. I would suggest that Terach might be understood as a person, like Abraham, whose life was marked by change, development, and growth, a maturation born out of his love for his remarkable son, Abraham. Far from being diametrically opposed regarding idol worship, Terach had, if not belief in the world as his son saw it, enough love for his son to try and understand his son's truth. Radak mentions that Terach took them away from Ur-Kasdim out of love for his son. Love for his son spurred Terach to take initiative, move his family away from their home. He started the going of Lech Lecha. I'm not suggesting that Terach was blameless. I don't suggest Terach was even a monotheist like his son, who recognized Adonai as God, sole creator of heaven and earth. I suggest that perhaps Terach loved Abraham enough to try to be with him on this great journey. And even though Terach could go all the way to Haran with Abraham, and though he went roughly from southern Iraq more than halfway to Canaan, he could not complete this particular journey. Like with any major change in the world, it was the next generations, Abraham and Sarah and their descendants, that would complete the journey that Terach began. When I was a kid, I heard the story of Abraham smashing his father's idols as a story of children, the next generation, being able to see the world more clearly than the older generation. That those two set in their ways wouldn't be making a better tomorrow the way my generation would be. Only now, not exactly an old man by any stretch of the imagination, can I read this section differently. As I mentioned before, Rabbi David Kimchi, Radak, says that it was Terach's love for Abraham that sparked him to move his family out of Ur-Kasdim. Terach might not have understood Abraham's monotheistic tendencies, but if it weren't for the paternal love Terach shows Abraham, Abraham may not have been able to fulfill the call put forward to him by God. Terach took them out of Ur-Kasdim, got them much closer to Canaan, and despite whatever doubts he had about Abraham's theology, he took the leap, took them out of their native land, intending to go to Canaan. This is no small feat. It might even be what inspires Abraham to leave Haran, where his father would die, and finish his journey to Canaan. Even today, a young person barely tethered to other people, let alone homes, mortgages, and other family obligations, can pick up their life and move it in a way that's harder for older people to do. Younger people can embrace radical ideas because they aren't burdened with the world as it is and how it was before they were born. If we can avoid condemning Terach for not getting it regarding his son's worldview, we can embrace a show of parental love that moved Terach from his inertia and toward the world as we know it today. I can see that it is possible that Terach wanted more for his son than was possible in their native land, that Terach did the best he could, and that Terach went as far as time and age would allow him. And when he could no longer continue, it was up to Abraham and Sarah to finish that journey for Terach, but not only for Terach, to go for themselves to a place that God could show them, to change the world for the better. Far from being the opposite of Terach, perhaps Abraham was just continuing Terach's story. Maybe some of what Abraham exceptional came from his father Terach, who had it inside him as well. One of the amazing things I've realized recently is that for years I saw myself as a very different person from my father. He was cautious where I was foolhardy. He was reserved where I was outspoken. He was not very interested in religious life, and I'm now a rabbi. My father might not have understood what brought me to my current path. He didn't think the upbringing he provided would lead to a son entering the rabbinate. But even though he hated Hebrew school, he took me. Later, when I wanted to attend services on Friday night with the youth group, he would take my sister and I. And though he wouldn't attend a single synagogue brotherhood event in his life, he worked as the cotton candy man at the Purim Carnival every year. He read my sermons with the serious and critical eye of the brilliant attorney he was. If you asked him what he had to do with my entering the rabbinate, he would have claimed no credit. But he supported me, trusted me. He trusted my instincts even when they were different from his own. So he helped me and joined me on this path, even if it was very different from the life he had expected me to lead. I see now, as I see of Abraham and Terach, that so much of what I am is because of the love he showed me. He put me in a position to be who I became. A similar dynamic as exists between parents and children can exist between teachers and students, mentors and those they mentor, and between people and those who guide them. Every person doesn't have a relationship like this with a parent, but maybe you can see this person in one of your teachers, your mentors, or someone else who will not finish your journey with you, someone whose journey you will continue. There are times that we tell ourselves we're breaking with our parents, setting a new course toward a bright future that our parents couldn't understand or wouldn't understand. Even during moments when we felt most strongly that we were setting out on a journey all our own, we were living out the ideals and aspirations that we learned from them. Only many years later do we realize how much we owe our parents, that when we make our journeys with them, we can understand each other. May we strive to value the sacred in our relationships through understanding. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be so.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, v'tekidu l'leotzer bereshit, shelo asanai k'yeh haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'kol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, Lifnei melech, malchei hamlochim, hakadosh baruch hu. V'nemar, v'haya Adonai, l'melech al haaretz, v'yom hahu, yehyeh Adonai echad. Ushemo, echad.
We stand as one on this night of remembrance, united in grief, united in loss, united in the power of a promise that God has made us, that God will sustain us. We give praise to this life and rise up together to renew our strength. The Mourner's Kaddish, we found on page 122 of your Machzor. I invite you to rise as fits your custom and join me. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayekon u'vyomekon v'chayei l'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'elam u'amei amaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemed kudsha b'richu. La'ela ul'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, dal miran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlam rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'imrumav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshrei tevel, v'imru amen. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen. Our closing song, this Kol Nidre, is Adon Olam, which can be found on page 126 of your Machzor.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, V'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, V'yet Nasa, V'chesod Kol, Azai Melech, Shemo Nikra, V'yacharei, Kivod HaKol, Levachado Yimov Nora, V'hu Chayil, V'hu Hoved, V'hu Yiviyeh, V'tifara, V'hu Echad, V'en Sheni, L'ham Shiloh, Li Reshit, Li Tachlit, Elo Haoz, Be'Hamisra, Be'Hu Eli, Be'Chai Go'ali, B'Tzur Pevli, Be'Eit Sarah, Be'Hu Nisi, Umanos Li, Menat Kosi, Be'Yo Ekra, Be'Yado, Akiruchi, Be'Ishan, Be'Ahira, Be'Ruchi, Be'Ati, Adon Maili, Be'Lo Ikra.